This week, Jason McAteer receives some golfing tips from the USA's Walker Cup team and assesses Liverpool's start to the season. We catch up with former Bolton midfielder Fabrice Muamba and discover how much life has changed since his near-death experience. And arguably the greatest player to have graced the Premier League, this week's iconic figure is Welsh wizard Ryan Giggs.
Liverpool appeared to have announced some late summer signings when the American Walker Cup team was entertained at Anfield by Jason McAteer. Captain Spider Miller and his team of amateur golfers were welcomed to the ground by the former midfielder to see where so much Liverpool history has taken place, including the odd goal from McAteer himself.
We're here to play in the Walker Cup match, and that's a match between a team from the United States of America playing a team from Great Britain and Ireland. I love the stadium. I love the open air feel. I can see the excitement.
After looking around the ground, Spider returned the favour with a few tips to improve McAteer's striking of the ball on the golf range.
Keep it square, move it back in your stance a little bit. Now you're talking. Oh yeah, this is it.
It was also an opportunity to get his take on the club's start to the season ahead of their visit to Old Trafford.
I think as results go and points on the board, you'd have to say it's okay. It's been pretty good. I think performance-wise, I think could be a lot better. I think Stoke, where it's always a difficult place to go, and plus the hangover from the 6-1 last season. So to get the 3 points, a great bit of magic from Coutinho was fantastic.
Coutinho with an adroit turn. And a fierce shot! What a goal! What an utterly fabulous goal!
It was a tough game, really. I mean, they took criticism for the performance, but I thought they dug in and stayed in the game and showed a lot of character. West Ham came to Anfield, and it was a game we felt, as pundits and as fans, that Liverpool probably were going to take the 3 points quite easily.
Mancini, Saka couldn't get to it. Martin Noble does and scores!
Disappointing thing for me was after the 3 clean sheets to show real lapses of concentration at times, and then to concede 3 goals sort of undone all the good defensive work that had gone before him in the games that they played before. There was no real quality, no guile or creativity shown really for a good 50 or 60 minutes, and that is a worrying sign. I think if you look at it as a whole with Brendan Rodgers, it's probably his team now. You know, since he's been at Anfield, you know, he's inherited someone else's exploits, someone else's experience. But he's managed to get the players in that he wants, the kind of players that he wants. He's managed now to produce a team with a team ethic that he wants. He's played them all together through pre-season. He's identified his team, he's identified his formation, give a lot of them game time through pre-season, and they knitted really well. He's got a good bunch of experienced players and young players now, players as well for the future. Ings, you know, has come in for the future. Benteke, I like Gomez, he's still only 18, 19, so you know, there's a lot of football to come from him. Milner, really good signing after Steven Gerrard had gone. A lot of experience comes with James Milner, not only from playing football but winning things as well. You know, he's won things with City, he knows what it takes to win things, he knows how to get a dressing room back up when they were down, and I like that what Brendan Rodgers has done. So I'd have to say, yeah, quietly impressed with what he's done in this market. It was there for years and years. It was built on the history and the legacy of the club that you don't get anything at Anfield. Unfortunately, it sort of crept in probably 4 or 5 seasons ago, where teams were coming to Anfield. They were coming with an attacking formation, they were coming with really expansive football and coming to do a turn on Liverpool. And Liverpool, more times than not, were losing games at Anfield, and that aura which they built so many years on it had just disintegrated. I think Brendan come in, he wanted to turn Anfield back into that fortress, and I think he's done a really, really good job doing it. I think it's a big loss these days not to be in the Champions League, in the sense of attracting players. You know, there's an elite bunch of players now, they all want to play in the Champions League. So for Liverpool not to enter the Champions League, you're now looking at a different bracket of players to bring to the football club. So it's the knock-on effect to that is huge. Well, I'd like to see a real challenge for the Europa League this season. I think we've got the squad to do it. You know, the cup games and the league games, they come thick and fast. You know, let's go and try and win everything. I'm not too sure what Harry's saying there. I don't know whether he means it's not an exciting football team. I don't know whether he means it's got no sprinkling of stardust, if that's what he means. It's a hard-working team. It's a team, you know, full of experience and youth. It's a team I think will get more positive results than negative. Is it a team that's ready to go into the top 4? I'm not so sure. Maybe a 5th or a 6th, but you know, to build on this team, I think is exciting. I think it's a harsh comment from Harry. There's only one way you can put a statement to that to bed, and that is bring success.
No tricky shots avoided by McAteer on or off the course then.
Say no more, folks. He's got it.
But after Liverpool's subpar performance at Old Trafford at the weekend left them languishing in mid-table, it very much remains to be seen whether the Reds really do have it and can mount a serious challenge in the Premier League this season.
In 2012, Carlos Tevez was part of Manchester City's title-winning side.
The blue moon has risen, just like a dream in their hearts. City are champions.
That Premier League winners' medal was the 3rd of the Argentine's career. Tevez also tasted success with neighbours United in 2008 and 2009 and became only the 6th footballer to win the title with 2 different Premier League clubs. This week, we want to know if you can name the 3 players out of those 6 who won winners' medals with 2 teams from different cities.
Many footballers have to come to terms with career-ending injuries. Not so Fabrice Muamba, who in March 2012 suffered a life-threatening on-field cardiac arrest with former club Bolton Wanderers against Tottenham Hotspur during an FA Cup quarter-final.
I mean, every day it's a special day because you realise how far you've come, and if you truth to be told, you should be 6 feet under, you know. So the whole picture of what it should be like in the reality, in the grander scheme, and it makes you realise that I'm one of those, you know, lucky people and that still live and still enjoy life.
The midfielder's heart stopped for a remarkable 78 minutes.
I've come to terms to accept, you know, just accept what I need to accept and get on with it. But it's just sometimes it's when you watch football and then the guys that don't try, it's the one you find very certain things anymore. And football is the goal and the dream and the ambition that you had to achieve in the game of football. I wasn't able to do anymore, and that's something that I had to accept. I just love football, and I think the feeling that you get from a game of football is priceless. So if I'm not playing it, I want to be at least part of being in it, of trying to get that feeling, and that's why I got into my coaching courses, and hopefully it can help me to get back that feeling again. I've come in there and they've helped me with my coaching badges, and it's a bit weird because you know, I never thought I'd be taking the badges this early in my career anyway. I studied at Stafford University as part of the PFA courses that's been funded by the PFA for current player and ex-player media journalism courses, and I applied for it 2 years ago, and thankfully I got my BA in June. It's huge pressure just to get works done, and especially if you are doing a nice shift in terms of covering the Champions League game and the deadline, you have to send the work back into the editor. When I asked him the question, he had to double take a look at me if it was really me. So to him it was like, it looked twice, but then after the press conference I went to see the staff, all the staff in the office. Arsenal was there. Was like, so you are the other side now? I say, yeah, and I'm taking, I've doing my journalism course now. So, oh, because I wasn't sure if it was you or not, so I was like, oh, that was a bit different. But no, I mean, Arsenal is top managers, and then, but for myself to be in that situation, it was right out my comfort zone. To call me alive, I don't get tempted. Listen, even when I'm at Liverpool, sometimes I look at it and think, God, can I just join it for 5 minutes? And no, you can't. I have to accept the fact that I'm putting my life at risk. So, and the temptation is there. I do exercise, but I do like my exercise is more of a walking pace type of exercise. So I can go on the treadmill for about an hour, but walking wise, so I'm still walking, So, and I'm still sweating. But I have to respect what I've been told, what I can, what I cannot do, and just move on with it.
With 13 Premier League titles over 24 seasons, Ryan Giggs is an undoubted icon. His story is still to come.
Everton's defeat of Chelsea was viewed by their fans as the second significant victory over the defending champions this season. Though that was their only on-field encounter, the Merseyside club's ability to resist their advances for defender John Stones was arguably even more significant.
The manager and the chairman made a decision that John wasn't for sale, and they stuck with that throughout the season, throughout the transfer window, should I say. And we're delighted. He's here, he's got some good friends here, he's got a good little family unit and stuff, and hopefully we can nurture his talent. I think if you look out there, I don't think there's that many defenders out there that people are willing to spend a lot of money on. So, we knew we had a bit of a gem in John. We know that he's still progressing, and we feel this is the best place for him. And I'd like to think that not only myself but the players around him can turn him into that player that we all expect him to become.
Everton captain Phil Jagielka clearly has high hopes for the 21-year-old, and through his roles as leader and defensive partner, is perfectly placed to judge.
In a centre-half partnership, it all depends on playing together a lot and understanding that relationship. And it's nice that me and John have been able to play together. We're still learning a little bit about each other still, but that's what it's all about, getting those games in together, the minutes in together, the training sessions and things like that. And as soon as a partnership progresses and does something like you sort of become an autopilot, and that's a really good place to be in as a partnership.
Along with Stones, another man key to Everton's fortunes is Ross Barkley. After impressing in 2013-14, he struggled to deliver consistently last season. But with 2 goals and 3 assists already this campaign, Barkley appears to be back to his best.
We know how much ability he's got and how exciting he can be, but it's a case of doing it on a regular basis. Scoring a couple of goals already this season and having a couple of assists and things is proving to me that he's coming to grips with his role, and it's not just about looking good for 5 or 10 minutes. It's actually being a good part of the team for the most of the game.
Last season was particularly frustrating for Roberto Martinez and his men. Having found themselves languishing in the lower half of the table, a final flourish lifted them to 11th. Now there's a fierce determination to keep moving in the right direction.
It's still early days yet, but I think if we don't learn from the disappointment last season, then there's no point. There's no point in us having it. We've got to learn, that we didn't enjoy those darker days, if you like, of being down in the league and the performance has been so low. So we've got some good lads, some good professionals in the squad, and it's up to us to make sure we get those standards back to the heights they were the previous season, and make sure we stay on there.
Early days indeed, but the signs are encouraging.
Earlier in the show, we asked if you could name the 3 players to have won Premier League winners' medals with 2 teams from different cities. Henningberg was part of the Blackburn Rovers side that lifted the trophy in 1995 and also claimed back-to-back titles with Manchester United. The Norwegian spent 3 seasons at Old Trafford before returning to Ewood Park in 2000. In May 2004, Arsenal became the first Premier League team to go the whole season unbeaten. Kolo Touré was one of the Invincibles and enjoyed 7 seasons with the Gunners before signing for Manchester City in 2009, lifting the Premier League trophy 3 years later. Gaël Clichy is the third and final name on the list, and like Touré was part of Arsène Wenger's title-winning side of 03-04, at the time the youngest player to gain a Premier League winners' medal. He too moved to the Blue Half of Manchester, but went one better than his Ivorian teammate, securing the title with the Citizens on 2 occasions. Now in his 5th year at the club and with his side still unbeaten this season, who's to say he won't make it a hat-trick of title wins come May?
He was someone that just took my breath away. The way he went past players, he glided past players, and he had unbelievable balance. That's probably his biggest quality, Ryan, that people try and kick him and he stayed on his feet.
Pace, incredible skill, and he had a supreme self-confidence. Calmness personified.
Even up until he was probably 38, 39, I mean, I still seen him play on the left-hand side of midfield, play on the wing and still beat a man and get a quality crossing.
His desire and hunger to become a better footballer year in, year out stood to him, came in as a winger and ended up he could play in midfield. That's only because of the cleverness he had, the ability he had and the hunger and desire he had to keep playing for Manchester United.
13 Premier League trophies, 632 appearances. Ryan Giggs is a Premier League icon.
I always tell the same story about Giggsy. Myself and Incy went along to Old Trafford to watch the youth team play. We sat up in the director's box and the manager was just sat along from us, and we went over and sat with him. And he's chatting away and he says, "Oh, we've got a kid tonight called Ryan Wilson playing." He said, "Keep an eye on him. He's going to be a star." And this kid came out on the pitch, spindly little thing, shorts too big for him, shirt looking too big for him. And he just tore up and down this left wing all night.
He's only, because he was only skinny, he's only skinny now, but you know, when he came in, he was dead sharp and quick. So, I mean, straight away you've got a bit of a problem as a defender. So even at that age, at 16, you're thinking, oh, we've got to keep an eye on him, he can make you look a fool. And he was that kind of player. For the rest of his career, he just made fools of defenders.
Oh, Giggs. Out comes Walker. Giggs is round him. The goal is there for Manchester United, and they have it.
I mean, we played against him in training. We knew how difficult he was to mark. I mean, to run at the pace Ryan used to run at with the balance that he had, I think separated him from me immortals. We'd do one-on-ones, you know, attacker against the defender in front of the goal, and it was near impossible to try and stop. He could change direction so quickly that you couldn't really keep up with him. So you'd be sort of sitting there as a defender praying that you wouldn't get one on with Giggsy.
He went past people with ease, was just as quick with the ball than he was without it. And he had this unbelievable temperament. He was playing against men.
He had a toughness about him as well. You know, if you kicked him, he wouldn't kick you back per se. He would probably get up, get on the ball and try and embarrass you. The gaffer was obviously right, because he became Ryan Giggs, and the rest, as they say, is history.
By the 98-99 season, the Flying Welshman had 4 Premier League trophies and 2 FA Cups to his name, and in April '99 enjoyed his most famous moment.
What a great goal. I mean, it's Giggsy in a nutshell, really.
As soon as he scored the goal, I knew at the time this was probably the greatest goal that the FA Cup's ever seen.
Getting the ball, a free spirit, running at players, committing players, and what a great finish as well, and of course in a huge game for us.
He went past Dixon, he went past Keown, and the way that they tried to knock him off the ball, but he stayed on his feet, and the way he finished.
He just waltzed right through him and buried one against the England #1.
Rifled it into the top left-hand corner, and he was a special player who produced special moments at the big moments in the games. I think the celebration will probably be more famous than the actual goal itself in the years to come. You know, the shirt above the head, swinging it, and but obviously the rug that he had on his chest at the time, which is not there any longer. So yeah, it was funny.
In 2002, Giggs became United's longest-serving player following the departure of Dennis Irwin. 6 years later, he broke Bobby Charlton's club appearance record and went on to increase his Premier League title tally to 13.
He did adapt his game. He had to adapt his game from the flying winger to then becoming maybe a number 10, and then he came in to play a more central midfield player's role. And that was because he had so much intelligence, football intelligence, to come in and play that role, understand the role of a centre midfield player, because he had that ability.
I think he realised that he didn't have the blinding pace once he was in his 30s, so he kind of moved back into midfield a bit. And it's just his reading of the game and his awareness. You know, players couldn't get anywhere near him. Even though he'd lost a bit of pace, he was still able to control the game and just dictate the tempo of the play.
He changed the way he trained, his approach to the game. He had to look after himself. Started with his yoga, looking after his body. So I think his mindset changed before his body changed.
And that's probably why Sir Alex Ferguson used him more inside, because of his ability to control football games, to use his quality on the ball and to have that intelligence to play in any position on the pitch. And that, towards the end of his career, meant that he could continue to play well into his 40s.
Nowadays, United clearly missed that. He couldn't come in at 42, but they haven't replaced Giggs, and I don't know if they ever will.
His playing career may have come to an end, but Giggs remained an invaluable asset. Following the departure of Sir Alex's chosen successor, David Moyes, United asked him to take charge for the last 4 games of the 2013-14 season.
To work with Ryan, particularly the 4 weeks he had as manager, were special. You saw at first hand that this guy is totally driven in life, and it was a difficult moment for Ryan, for the club, but he grew into it. He looked like he was ready to be the Man United manager.
Sir Alex Ferguson always said that he was destined for management, and, you know, I think it is the fairy tale scenario, isn't it, at Manchester United, that Ryan Giggs comes back with Gary Neville, Paul Scholes, Nicky Butt, the class of '92. It is a dream scenario for a lot of people, and I'd like to see it. I think it's a great story, but it's a big ask for Ryan Giggs, but I think he's got the mental strength to do it.
The part of me thinks that Ryan could eventually become the Man United manager. He has all the qualities to become a really successful manager.
How will he be remembered? Well, I think he'll go down as the #1 in all-time Premier League footballers, because of the longevity at a top club and the amount of trophies he's won as well. 13 Premier League trophies, I don't think that'll ever get beat.
Ryan Giggs, flying winger, devastating goals, crosses, skill, but it was the work for the team that he was probably unparalleled to any winger that I think I've ever seen in world football.
Just absolutely amazing to be a part of his playing career, because he's the best player that ever played for Man United, without a doubt.
Nobody's ever going to do what Ryan's done. You know, players move around a lot as well now. The old '92 crew, there was like 6 or 7 of them. They all stuck there for years, and the club never had to buy a player. But there's not going to be another Ryan Giggs around. He's the best player Manchester United have ever had. A player who's worked so hard for us for 25 years. He's worth more to the club than anybody else.
Very difficult to see somebody staying at a club in that length of time. You know, from the age of, as a kid to playing to 40. I think it'd be a long time before we see the likes of that, if ever again, because the football world has changed. So it'd take a very special player, very special talent to be able to emulate what Ryan's done.
Even when you were playing, you still kind of coached certain players, you know, on there and that, so you had an idea. And then when you actually do become the coach, you know, out on the pitch is easy. You know, it's not easy, but you feel at home.
Next week, former Leeds United winger Harry Kewell tells us about his new role as Watford's under-21s coach and his time in the top flight. Until then, from Marcus Buckland and me, Dave Farrer, goodbye. Liverpool appeared to have announced some late summer signings when the American Walker Cup team was entertained at Anfield by Jason McAteer. Captain Spider Miller and his team of amateur golfers were welcomed to the ground by the former midfielder to see where so much Liverpool history has taken place, including the odd goal from McAteer himself.
We're here to play in the Walker Cup match, and that's a match between a team from the United States of America playing a team from Great Britain and Ireland. I love the stadium. I love the open air feel. I can see the excitement.
After looking around the ground, Spider returned the favour with a few tips to improve McAteer's striking of the ball on the golf range.
Keep it square, move it back in your stance a little bit. Now you're talking. Oh yeah. This is it.
It was also an opportunity to get his take on the club's start to the season ahead of their visit to Old Trafford.
I think as results go and points on the board, you'd have to say it's okay. It's been pretty good. I think performance-wise, I think could be a lot better.
This week, Jason McAteer receives some golfing tips from the USA's Walker Cup team and assesses Liverpool's start to the season. We catch up with former Bolton midfielder Fabrice Muamba and discover how much life has changed since his near-death experience. And arguably the greatest player to have graced the Premier League, this week's iconic figure is Welsh wizard Ryan Giggs.
Saka couldn't get to it. Martin Noble does and scores!
Disappointing thing for me was after the 3 clean sheets to show real lapses of concentration at times, and then to concede 3 goals sort of undone all the good defensive work that had gone before him in the games that they played before. There was no real quality, no guile or creativity shown really for a good 50 or 60 minutes, and that is a worrying sign. I think if you look at it as a whole with Brendan Rodgers, it's probably his team now. You know, it's since I think Stoke, where it's always a difficult place to go, and plus the hangover from the 6-1 last season. So to get the 3 points, a great bit of magic from Coutinho was fantastic.
Coutinho with an adroit turn. And a fierce shot! What a goal! What an utterly fabulous goal!
It was a tough game, really. I mean, they took criticism for the performance, but I thought they dug in and stayed in the game and showed a lot of character. West Ham came to Anfield, and it was a game we felt as pundits and as fans that Liverpool probably were going to take the 3 points quite easily.
Mancini.